Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, one and all. As you can tell, we are back in Clubhouse 5, which we have to say, before we shot this, we absolutely love Clubhouse 5.
We do.
Clean.
It's
so clean. All the sports on, so come down and get involved. As you can see, Zach Jalab, Patrick Van Straten with me today. Jalab, how are you? Is that a new shirt?
Good, thank you. I've had it for a while. I might just not have worn it on screen. Dickie's number. Thank you very much.
It's got a workwear, thick twill vibe.
Yeah,
I love it.
But my shoulders really hurt.
Played golf yesterday, didn't we?
Played golf. I went to the gym on Tuesday and just
this guy.
it's not good.
You just don't stop, does
good.
he? How have you been?
Crushed. Actually, I'm in a little bit of DOMS myself.
Oh.
I got out of the cab this morning like a crab.
Did you?
Yeah, like I could. Do you ever have a thing where you're standing in the shower and then you realise you're not really standing up straight? You're kind of like hunched because you're in so much pain. Yeah. That's me. What about you?
I'm good.
You're always gymming.
Yeah. I haven't actually been gymming that much at the moment. Been playing too much golf, I think.
Yeah,
but
you did very well, mate. 84.
Yeah. Let's crack on with the football chat, though, because nobody wants to hear about our golfing abilities as poor as it is. Today, as you can tell from the title, we're talking about players that need to force moves. They need to get out of their club at the earliest opportunity. Now, the way we're going to do this is usually one of us would act as a director of football or a judge, but we're flipping this around today. We're going to give you guys at home the opportunity to become the judge. We're also bringing back quickfire questions for this, so stay tuned to the end to get some of your questions answered. What we want you to do is we're each going to pitch in 3 players we believe need to force moves from their current clubs. We want you guys at home in the comments below to pick 3 of the 9 and say who had the best argument. So you guys are going to be the judge, jury, and executioner on this video rather than us. Shall we start with you, Zach Jalab?
Yes, let's do it. And I'm going to head over to Spain and Atletico Madrid to talk about Joao Felix. Now, the news came out actually yesterday that his number, the number 7, was given to former, and now he's back there, Atletico Madrid player Antoine Griezmann, the number 7. That was Felix's shirt previously. And things have been kind of interesting for him, I think, over the past year or so. Obviously, didn't have the best of starts for Atleti this season, ended up kind of being in and out of the squad, and then obviously went on loan to Chelsea. And whilst I think his Chelsea loan was definitely not a success, I think that's fair enough to say, especially when you consider Chelsea's point of view of spending, I think, £10 million
It's the worst loan move in Premier League history.
For sure. But I do think you saw that there's still a player in there.
Worst in Premier League.
It was.
How much did it cost them?
It was costing them 750 grand a game.
Yeah, it was a lot of money. It was a lot of money for him.
And they finished 12th.
Not good.
But I do feel like it showed that Felix is still a player that if he is playing in an attacking system with more of a free role rather than a defensive system with Atletico Madrid, he can still be really, really exciting. He is only 3 years old. He will be turning 24 next season. But this is a guy that I think needs a fresh start at a new club. Not even just a loan where he doesn't know where he's going to be after that. He needs to go to a club where they are playing with an attacking philosophy to get the best out of him. Again, I still think to that debut where he did get a red card for sure, but we saw what he had in his game, what was in his locker.
Was that not
as
like
well.
the classic Felix, like moments of brilliance, like technically fantastic,
But he's still so
actual numbers-wise, didn't score enough goals for you, didn't contribute enough.
But I don't think you can look at Chelsea's attack and go, "Oh, Felix was poor here." Chelsea's attack in general has always been shocking, no matter what attacker we put in there.
And the argument we always made at Atleti was, well, if you put him in a better attacking side, he'll be better. And then he went to an attacking side that was actually kind of a bit worse.
Exactly. And so it's not a shock. I do think this is a guy who, really for his own career here now, he's at a stage where he's kind of, the board themselves have kind of come out and said that Pochettino was the guy who didn't want to bring Felix to Chelsea.
On a permanent.
And also because the fee is a lot of money here as well. He signed that new year extension towards his previous contract when he left Atleti on loan for 6 months, which means he's still contracted at the club until 2027. Now, supposedly a fee for him is like £83 million to get his services.
Good luck.
So basically, Atleti probably need to drop their price if he's in order to get a move. However, the guys at Atleti basically said, like, we'll see what happens when he comes back. Simeone is keen to work with him, but
Surely
also
he
if someone
doesn't have a
comes in
future
for
there,
him...
After being loaned out in that sort of manner, ripped his shirt off.
Oh, they're 100% open to a sale, but I think they are open to a sale at the right price because they want to. They spent obviously so much money to get him originally, and to be fair, if you actually look at his career at Atleti, okay, he didn't maybe reach the heights of what people were saying because people were comparing him to Mbappe at times, and who was going to go on to do more, and he won La Liga. Right, he had a decent time with Atleti. Okay, didn't go on to be the superstar, the golden boy that Mbappe has become. But he's had an okay time at Atletico Madrid for sure.
But there's a bit of sunk cost in this, right? As in, like, they spent so much on him that they're like, we can't accept a low fee.
Yeah.
But the longer they keep him with him doing nothing, the lower the fee will eventually be, and he's costing them in the meantime. So would it not be better if they were like, if they made it known that maybe they'd accept kind of 40, 50 mil for him? It would suck. It would look bad,
Definitely.
but they're just going to lose more money by not doing that. I don't really get it, especially because he left Atletico Madrid and they had probably their best 6 months as an attacking side we've ever seen under Diego Simeone. So it's not exactly a great look for him.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's going to be interesting. And from the way I've kind of done this research, I was doing it more from the player's perspective. Atleti, I think, should sell him, and they should take a cut on the fee that they want for him.
I can see like a Villa being tempted if you were like 40 million.
I think 40 million, everybody would be involved in Joao
honestly,
Felix.
I was thinking
But I think that's the thing. Like, you can price him at like 80 mil and get nobody engaged, or you could price him at like 40 mil and have a bunch of people,
which then might make it rise to 55.
Exactly.
Yeah, 55, 60.
I think it's easier that way.
And I think there's loads of clubs that would be after a player like this. I do think he needs to be playing in more of a free role in these attacking systems. I think that's kind of when we saw the best of him for Chelsea at times when there wasn't many best for most players last season. But whether he can play off the left, whether he plays in the middle, whatever it might be, I just don't. He's obviously not massive.
The Bernardo Silva replacement. Joao Felix.
I think he's obviously a much more attacking player than obviously Bernardo Silva. But he's so skillful. He is a joy to watch when he is playing on the attacking side. I just think for the betterment of his career, he needs to move on.
Has he got it in him to force a move though? I feel like is he happy just to sit there as a sub and kind of earn his paycheck? I don't feel like I can't imagine Joao Felix kicking up a stink and being like, get him out of this club. He did it in January.
He did it in January, didn't he? He kind of forced the loan move, and obviously there were rumours of Arsenal, there was rumours of Manchester United at times. Then Chelsea came in, and obviously the whole thing that kind of happened was for whoever's going to pay the biggest fee, and Chelsea were the ones that did that. I mean, previously, I wouldn't have hated it if it'd gone to Arsenal. I wouldn't have hated it if I was kind of looking at this and thinking, obviously, Bayern Munich are looking in towards that attacking striker mould. If he could maybe fit there as well, as you mentioned, Aston Villa with what they're doing, if they can go and fork out the cash for him, I think there are lots of clubs that could do it. I just think, I do think it needs him to kind of maybe push a little bit and make it a little bit more public knowledge that he is very keen for a move that Athletic would be willing to sell.
I think it's a decent shout. So note down Joao Felix as option number 1 for you guys at home. Pat, who's your option number 1?
Well, my one's actually quite good timing because I've brought Hojlund to the table.
I'm interested to hear your thoughts on him.
Well, earlier in the week, there were kind of not very convincing rumours that maybe Man United might be interested in a £50 million move. And now, as the week's gone on, those rumours have got more convincing. And that's basically my argument. I think, as we've said 100 times, it's a really thin market for strikers right now. And that means that if you're a young, promising striker rather than a kind of established 24-year-old striker, you might be able to get a move to a bigger club than you otherwise would. So ordinarily, somebody like Hojlund would probably have to go to an intermediate level club before he could try and get a move to a team like United or Chelsea or City or, like a great team. Well, right now, because Osimhen priced out for everybody, Kane priced out for everybody, it looks like Hojlund is a pretty reasonable target for a team like Man United. And if you've got the chance to go and play, if he has the chance to go and play for a team like Manchester United, I don't really feel Atalanta should stand in his way. I think they'd get a good fee, and it would be a really exciting move for him because there are minutes on offer there. Last season they're playing Martial, Wout Weghorst. So you can't even make the argument you normally would of, well, what if he sits on the bench all year? Now, I mean, his numbers don't entirely convince me. I do have question marks, but they're still really solid. 16 goals and assists across 2,200 minutes last year. He's only 20 years old. He's obviously a colossal unit.
Big boy.
6'3", isn't
he?
The weird thing is he doesn't actually profile as like a classic striker, though this may be an Atalanta thing. If you look at his shot numbers, they're relatively low. They're around 2.7. That's not crazy low. And again, he's 20, so they could come up. But given that his expected goal is very good, and there are lots of other things going on in his game, I don't know. It's an interesting kind of complicated picture. It has the sense that he's played wide a bit as well as playing through the middle. So he's obviously rates very well for touches in the box, but he's also in the top 1% for progressive passes received. So he's a really good outlet, because he is so big, because he's surprisingly quick. I don't think his dribbling, which actually has been pretty useful in Italy, is going to be much use in the Prem because his completion rate's fairly low. And what we tend to see when players come to the Premier League is their completion rate drops further. So if you're somebody who's kind of, below 50% completion, you're going to come to the Premier League and you're probably not going to be able to beat your man. That's kind of what we saw happen with Antony. It's kind of what we've seen happen with Mudryk to some degree. Now, obviously, they can improve, but I don't know. Hojlund, the shots can come up. The XG's good. The progressive passes received, good. He gets loads of touches in the area. He's good at carrying the ball into the area. This, to me, is just a solid profile. It's not a slam dunk centre-forward profile, but I think we understand that for 50 mil, there aren't necessarily slam dunk options.
Somebody's got to take a risk.
Well, I don't think you can buy a striker now for less than 50 mil. Really, if you're Man United, if you're a Chelsea, if
unless
you're Bayern Munich,
unless
the contractual situation, for sure. But I think really 50 million is the minimum fee to get a striker.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like Arsenal were talking about 50 million euros for Balogun, and Balogun I think has got a better profile than Hojlund. If United want to go for him, like he's homegrown.
But then do you not think if United go for him, suddenly that fee increases to 50?
I'm sure it increases.
Like the Premier League tax.
I'm sure it increases, but I don't know if it increases by like 20 mil. Like Arsenal need to sell something.
Do you think Arsenal would sell Balogun for 50 mil to United?
I don't know. Probably not, but maybe. Like I mean, I think it depends. That Arsenal were talking before about 35 mil. Well, if you get United on the hook for 50, I think you've got to seriously consider it. Anyway.
So would you be, if you were Manchester United, would you be paying 50 mil for Hojlund?
Yeah, I'd really consider it.
Yeah,
and I think he's quick, he's big, he's got great XG, playing in a worse side. There's enough there to dream, and even if he isn't amazing next year or even the year after,
possibly.
The attack was perfectly fine last year with Weghorst doing nothing.
And can you go into another season of not having a striker?
There has to be a striker signed, but I think the question marks is how badly are Atalanta going to pull our pants down?
Yeah.
If there's talk of it being a 70 million, I think United, first and foremost, I'm very, very unconvinced have that money in the bank. They're going to have to sell significant assets to raise 70 million. But then is that just a sort of bit of, do Atalanta turn down 50 mil for a 20-year-old? I think that would be...
I don't think they do after one season. No, I think you absolutely...
He started 20 games or something.
Unless you're convinced he is going to be a megastar, 50 mil is great money for him. He could easily break his leg and then he's done. It's... The United's options are very thin. Hojlund has one of the better profiles out there. He's got certainly one of the best physical profiles out there. I don't think the price is unreasonable. And as I say, I think that 5 years ago, we'd be saying maybe Hojlund to Spurs. Well, now Hojlund has a chance to go to Man United.
Yeah.
And I think if I were Hojlund, I'd be like, let me go. I want to do it.
And that is the perspective we're going from as well for people at home, not from the club's perspective.
Yeah, we're going
it's
from
definitely from the player's perspective.
So option number 2, for your opinion, is Hojlund. Option number 3, my shout, first and foremost, is Kieran Tierney. Okay. I think he has run his course at Arsenal. Sadly, I think injuries have kind of scuppered him to a level. I think it's 8 separate injuries since arriving at Arsenal. Significant game time missed. But last season, I think it was 7 starts in the Premier League. Not 1,000 minutes. And there were moments last season where he wasn't injured and still wasn't selected. I mean, particularly towards, was it the last 2 or 3 games? I think we saw Kivior being picked in the left-back slot.
I think though that's a kind of tactical thing. I'd say it was worse earlier in the season where you had Tomiyasu sometimes playing as a left back. But I mean,
it is a tactical thing. Though.
Injury issues as well, and he is just like not Zinchenko.
And I think that is the key here. Is that clearly there's been a tactical shift in how Mikel Arteta wants to utilise his fullbacks. when Kieran Tierney was first signed, they weren't playing inverted fullbacks that could come and support the midfield, were they? And we're seeing that now with Zinchenko. Obviously, we're going to see that very much with Kieran Timber as well, you would imagine, who can also slot in there. And Kieran Tierney just doesn't fit that mould for me. I think I would personally be surprised if he's still there in the summer. I think Arsenal might want to keep him because he is still a decent defender, isn't he? Still in his extremely limited minutes last season, putting up close to 4 tackles and interceptions per 90. And when the games came to crunch towards the back end, quite often you did see Zinchenko kind of being subbed out about 70 minutes, Kieran Tierney coming on because he's a better defender, really. As an out-and-out 1v1 defender, you'd rather have Kieran Tierney in those situations. I think he should be pushing for his own career. This is a player who won 5 consecutive league titles in Scotland, and we can laugh at that because it was with Celtic, but was coming out of Celtic with a reputation as being maybe their best academy graduate in a decade or so. Like Chris Hamwell, I've never seen more hyped about a player than Kieran Tierney when he left Scotland. They got a good fee for him at £25 million, and it just feels like now, although Arsenal are on the rise, his career is just starting to stagnate a little bit at Arsenal. And I think there'll be a lot of clubs interested in Tierney if they can pay 15, 20 million.
What level of club?
Arsenal would probably be happy with that. I think he'd be a
I
starter.
I think Arsenal would rather keep him than do that.
He'd be a starter for Newcastle.
Arsenal will keep him rather than selling him for 15 million. He's worth more than that. Like, he's a really good defender. We paid 25 mil, and that was before we knew he was Premier League quality. I mean, the thing about... I would actually say that the Timber arrival might mean Tierney can play more.
Do you think, honestly?
Well, yeah, because like last season, it was, well, we're going to invert from the left. Zinchenko's going to invert. He's going to go to midfield, and we don't really invert from the right. But now if you have Timber and he can invert from the right, then suddenly your left-back can play a more reserved role. And actually, if Arsenal's intention is to kind of flex between a back 3 and a back 4, Tierney played in a back 3, played on the left of a back 3 in the early days. But
he's not going to play on the left of a back 3 at Arsenal, is he?
Well, no, but in kind of like in the moment, you know, like a situation.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but like,
I know what you're saying. But I think
if he started more than 10 games next season, I would be extremely surprised.
I don't know, man. Like, I do know what you're saying. and I think if I were him, I would,
from his perspective,
and if someone like Newcastle was available, I'd be like, let me go to Newcastle. Come on. And I think actually, kind of personality-wise, I can imagine him being absolutely adored at Newcastle.
Yeah, just cracking tackles, pressing all over the pitch.
Yeah, it'd be great.
And this is from the player's perspective. I agree with Arsenal. Are going to want to keep him, aren't they? 15, 20 million pounds is probably not enough from their perspective. But from his perspective, I would be thinking about going to the board and saying, look, how much game time am I honestly going to get next year? And if it's below a certain mark, then I want to leave. I want to be in a team where I'm going to be starting every single week. You know, I'm 26 years old now, prime of my career. My injury problems have been a bit muddled, but I want to get through that. Like, I would be pushing for a move this summer if I was
I guess the thing that goes against him is those injury issues. Like, clubs will be looking at him going, can we spend that and only have him play 10 games?
I think Newcastle could. Like, Newcastle...
Yeah, obviously Dan Burns still there,
Yeah, Newcastle... And, what's he called? Target. Didn't they get Target?
Target.
Yeah, so they're completely fine if they don't have him. But if you had him, he would take them up a level.
Definitely.
Like, he really would.
But he seems to have been, injury-wise, a little bit better since that knee surgery back in, I think it was March or May 2022. I think since then... not as significant injury problems.
He fits that Eddie Howe kind of perspective. Like, he was captain of Celtic at such a young age. Like, he fits that kind of like experienced leader that Eddie Howe loves.
I think there's a fair few clubs that would be interested.
26.
I think there's a fair few clubs that would be interested in Tierney if he was to become available on the market.
I think so as well.
Okay, well, there's the third option.
Kieran Tierney.
You guys have 3 options as well
option
to
4.
pick from. Option 4. Now, I wanted to kind of pick a goalkeeper. I thought it would be interesting to talk about goalkeepers. Okay. And originally, I was thinking of Andre Onana, and then it seemed like his kind of move to Manchester United feels like it's going to be happening anyway. Could have happened by the time this video comes out, or happening next week. And we've spoken about him a bunch. Same with Mike Mannion, spoken about him a bunch. So I want to kind of drop down a level. Jordan Pickford.
Oh!
Because I actually think, whilst Jordan Pickford may have mistakes, and I'm not going to sit here and say Jordan Pickford should be playing for Manchester United or for a team that wants to finish in the top 4, but I do think Jordan Pickford is better than a relegation scrap every single season, which has happened for the past 2 seasons now. And without him in Everton's squad, Everton could have been relegated.
They would have been relegated.
To be quite honest,
I agree.
Over the last 2 months of the season, he becomes Superman at times. He becomes fantastic. Last season, he was 5th for post-shot expected goals. He should have conceded 5 more goals than they did. Now, Everton defensively actually weren't as bad as the rest of the relegation teams last year. And part of that is to do with Jordan Pickford in goal, in net. He doesn't have maybe the best defences in front of him with the likes of Conor Cody, who was there last season, Yerry Mina, Tarkowski, but I actually rate Tarkowski, to be fair. But the rest of them, I think, it was quite poor. Obviously playing under Frank Lampard, and then obviously Sean Dyche came in. And now the issue I think Jordan Pickford has is he signed that new contract.
Yeah, longest contract going.
Yeah, he signed a 4.5-year deal back in February, which keeps him at the club until 2027 now. Now, Everton originally paid £25 million. I think it rose to 30 back in like 2019, 2018 for him. And obviously that, I think Everton will be wanting to get their money kind of back.
Mate,
the thing that he does,
worth an unlimited amount of money almost.
Well, the thing that he does kind of have going in his favour is Everton are in need of cash. They are in need of cash. And Everton probably do need to sell one of their bigger players in order to be okay next season. Whether that is Onana, whether that is Pickford, maybe Calvert-Lewin if somebody looks to go for him. I doubt it, but probably the first two. I feel like one of those guys won't be at the club next season.
They sold Ellis Sims yesterday, didn't they, to Coventry?
They did sell Ellis Sims. They've
Great
also
deal.
sold a youngster to Chelsea as well, a left back, I think, for like 4 million. But they do need somebody that is going to probably bring in around 30 million. I think that could be the price.
4 million for a left back from them.
Yeah, for an academy kid, 17 years old or something like that.
You got loads of
Technically, apparently, Chelsea don't have a super young left back.
Other than Ian Matson. Ian Matson's just been
it's for the academy squad. Anyway, that's completely
paid 4
separate.
million for a guy for the academy.
Completely separate.
That's bananas.
But I think Jordan Pickford should be pushing for a move. I think Jordan Pickford would be looking at Nick Pope, who got relegated the season before, and obviously went to Newcastle, and think, I'm beating him in the England squad.
Yeah, but where?
Well, prior to Vicario going, could you have seen him at Spurs?
There was an argument for Spurs. I mean, if you're obviously, I think Brighton they've picked up a keeper now, haven't they? I mean, there are teams out there that are battling in the top 10. West Ham have Areola, don't they? As goal, who's okay.
He's back up.
Yeah, back up Fabianski. I mean, they're solidly into their 30s. I mean, Pickford is now 29, and so there's a chance. If Chelsea don't sort out their keeper situation, maybe they have a look at him.
Is that what you said? You want Pickford in net?
I don't think Pickford is Champions League quality. I don't think he's Champions League quality. I think he is conference to Europa, possibly. And I think what you do see as well is he is, in big games, actually very good. For England, he's had numerous occasions where he's come out fantastically well. In the relegation scrap for Everton, he's been brilliant and been vital for them. And so I also think it depends on how you want to play your football. Like, people always talk about Jordan Pickford with his feet. And obviously for someone who's trying to big him up to leave here, it doesn't kind of going against him. I think he's fine. Like, he's quite known for these absolutely punting the ball forward. If you want somebody to be playing out the back with short passes, I don't think he's probably the guy to go for. But for a team that is maybe sitting in 12th and above, like Crystal Palace, if you're looking to improve,
they're not going to pay enough to make.
Yeah, it's going to cost so much money to get him out of Everton.
When you say he's not Champions League level, the problem with that is it drastically reduces the number of people who can pay the fee Everton will ask to sell him.
It does, for sure. But I mean, like, I'm not going for this perspective.
Sure.
The perspective I'm going for is for Jordan Pickford. Yeah. And that is like, you can't be another relegation scrap.
Yeah, if you were Pickford, you would be saying, look, I'm done here.
Because say last season, right?
Why not flirting with United or something?
But then why sign the contract? Why sign in February a 4.5-year contract at a club where even in February we were fully aware they were going to be involved in a relegation scrap and had been the previous season?
I'll be honest, I think there's zero chance he goes. Like, Spurs have signed. United, if they sign someone, it's going to be more of a ball-playing guy.
Maybe he looks to play abroad then. Honestly, maybe he looks to play abroad. Like, I think this is a guy who should
Onana replacement.
But he shouldn't be in a relegation scrap season on the season. Like, I think Everton fans will sit there with you and go, like, he is our saviour every single season for the past 2 years.
He's a mid-table keeper.
Yeah, and he's playing in the bottom. He's playing in the bottom three.
Yeah, sure.
All right, come on then. Who have you got? Option number 5.
I mean, I've got Ferland Mendy. At Real Madrid. He actually played more than you probably think he did last season. He got about 1,300 minutes, a little bit over, in La Liga. And that's actually the fewest minutes he's had in a season for Real Madrid. He's been quite a dependable presence for them. But Nacho preferred to him at times. Camavinga playing over him at times.
A lot.
And I just think, maybe you need to start thinking about leaving at that point. Plus, obviously, they've got Alaba who can play at left back as well as centre back. So I think Ancelotti, obviously going next year, Ancelotti's probably a bit more fair-minded than a lot of managers. You do have the possibility that Ancelotti goes next year and whoever comes in is just like, no, I'm just never going to play you. I'm going to pick my first team.
Or they come in and they say, you're my guy.
Maybe, but it doesn't seem that likely, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Now, they will need a left back at some stage, but we've also heard them kind of interested in left backs. So I don't know. I think they're much more likely to buy somebody new and exciting than they are to say, Ferland Mendy, you've been kind of a rotation guy for the last 5 years, but now you're going to be a nailed-on starter. It just doesn't seem that plausible to me. And the thing is, when he was at Lyon, he was absolutely sensational. You know, they paid 50 mil for him, and that was about a fair fee at the time. I mean, like, he was really, really creative, like 1.4 key passes a game. That's now down to 1. Progressive passes were at nearly 6. It's now under 4. He would get loads of progressive passes received, complete loads of dribbles. So clearly he just had more freedom. So that's the other thing. Even if he stays at Real Madrid, he's not going to have games run through him in the way that you do when you're at a smaller team. You know, if you're the kind of fullback who gets on the ball a lot, you go to a big team and suddenly your value is kind of diminished because the ball doesn't go through you all the time. Like, why would it? If you had Kieran Trippier, for example, at Real Madrid, his value would be less than it is at Newcastle because Real Madrid have like 6 people who could do what Kieran Trippier does. But he was also just a great defender. You know, he would complete about 80% of his tackles, win about 4 defensive actions a game. You know, for progressive carries, he was in the top 5% of fullbacks. He's now in like the bottom third. Like, so you've basically just seen across his time at Real Madrid everything come down. And when he gets on the field, he's fine, but he's not really appreciated there. And he obviously fell out of contention for the French team, even though there were stages in the last 5 years where the left back slot should have been gettable. You know, they were playing like Joao Hernandez there, who, to my mind, was never really great and was really more of a centre back. They only, after injury, took notice and realised they should play Theo Hernandez there, who ended up being their joint best performer at the World Cup, I would say.
But he wouldn't have been their starting left back had Luka not snapped his ACL in the first game.
Exactly, but this is my point. You know, like the Deschamps, kind of like Southgate, is so intransigent. Like he's so fixed on the team that he wants that you're not really going to get a chance in that side unless you do something spectacular. And Mendy, you know, he's 28 now, 27, 28? Yeah, 28. I just think it's an opportunity for him to go to a club where he's appreciated, maybe get a run in the national team, because who knows what's going to happen with Luka as well. I just think I would want to do that. He's won the Champions League. He's earned a bunch of money. And I imagine him at Napoli. Or I imagine him at Spurs. I mean, I know they've got some guys. I imagine him at Dortmund or something. And I just think, you know, Raf Guerrero going.
They just brought in the Algerian, didn't they?
But you just think, Ben Sebaini. But you look at that and you think, yeah, I could definitely see this guy doing it. Like, he's really big. He's previously shown himself to be good in every phase of play. Just from a selfish point of view, I always get a bit sad when these guys come through at Lyon and then just drop off the face of the earth and we never see what they could have been.
Yeah, I do know what you mean. I think Ferland Mendy is a good shout. I've also got a player as option number 6 from La Liga. I've gone for Franck Kessie, who I just don't ever see it working at Barcelona. I felt like it was a weird move at the time, to be honest with you. Obviously, it was a free transfer from Milan, wasn't it?
Can you blame him to go to Barca?
Huh?
Can you blame him going to Barca?
I can't blame him, but I think it was a weird move from Barca's point of view.
Oh, okay.
When, you know, Frankie wasn't getting enough minutes as it was. Pedri and Gavi there. Busquets was there at the time as well. Now we see links this week that Oriol Romeu looks likely he could join the club from Girona.
And he's never been a 6. He's never been a 6. This is the argument at the time. Like, I remember us arguing with Chris about it, actually, but it was like this argument about what he actually did. Yeah. But the only time I felt he was really like impressive was in the early days at Atalanta when he was kind of like rushing into the box at the last minute.
Yeah, and also like I think his exit actually negatively impacted that Milan midfield quite a lot. I don't think Benacer or Tonali were as good without Franck Kessie in the side. And I don't think his 900 minutes are going to be improved on at Barcelona. Like, do I see next season him starting 20 games in that Barcelona midfield? No, like
when they're looking at signing Oriol Romeu, what does that say about you?
I think it's clearly an indication that you're not favoured by Xavi. Pedri and Gavi are effectively immovable objects in that side, aren't they? And Frenkie de Jong last season probably had his best season ever in a Barcelona shirt. So despite the fact Busquets is gone, I still don't see where the minutes come from Franck Kessie. And when he was at Milan, very solid midfielder. Like, yes, he wasn't maybe the player he was at Atalanta, but he was
fine.
An absolutely fine Champions League level central midfielder. And at Barcelona, he's not going to get the minutes required he's only just turned 26. Like, he's not
Still
old.
got a lot of time on his hands.
A lot of time on his hands. There are midfields across Europe that
Barca
could do with a
need
player
money as well,
like
don't they?
Franck Kessie. If I was, Barca need money. If I was Franck Kessie, I'd be going, look, is there another club in the Champions League that need a midfielder? Can I go back to Milan? Tonali's just gone. Can I just go back to Milan?
I don't think he'll need to force a move. I think that if
yeah,
Barca
it's
get
true.
any acceptable offer, they'll be like, we paid nothing for him.
But
Take him.
could he go back to Milan? Tonali's just left. I think they would probably welcome him back, given that the midfield composition was probably worse without him in it. I think even a club like Tottenham, I think he would probably start.
Napoli and Ndombele's gone back to Spurs. So
Exactly. I think there are options on the market, and if I was him,
is a fan of.
as soon as I saw that Oriol Romeo rumour, I would have walked into Xavi Hernandez's office and gone, get me out. Get me out. If Romeo's coming, honestly, I watched Oriol Romeo last season at the new camp against Barcelona in the 0-0 draw between Girona and Barca. I have never seen a more overweight footballer. He was carrying so much timber in the midfield. He had been enjoying Catalonia, and he was the best midfielder on the park. I'm not even joking. He looked like he was about 3 stone heavier than he was at Southampton, and he was the best midfielder on the park.
Like when Merce played.
It was honestly comical. He was like, even my girlfriend, who was her first ever football game, was like, "Who's the guy in midfield?" Because it looked like someone's dad was playing in there, but.
Great
He's going to
talent
go to
ID by
Barcelona
Barca.
now, and whatever. He was kind of fine. Who's option number
Was
7?
it former Barca? Before Chelsea.
Yeah, he
picked
was
him
a
up?
Barca
He was-
academy graduate.
My last option, from one end with Pickford, I'm going to the complete other end. You mentioned him actually, Theo Hernandez. And this isn't because I'm saying obviously
What?
he's having a bad time at AC Milan or anything like that.
I mean,
I
I'd
just
do
think
I'd sign him.
I just think
he's great.
he can go to that next level. Now, I'm not saying AC Milan's even bad, but I think that right now with the way the
Real
world of
Madrid.
football is, there are a couple of clubs
Go back.
that are above AC Milan's level. Real Madrid's one of them. Bayern Munich's another.
Yeah, actually would have been sick at
obviously,
Barca.
Man City's there. You could talk about possibly how United's trajectory.
No,
Arsenal's trajectory, so on
Man
and so forth.
City
Luke
would
Shaw.
hate him.
Yeah, I'm not saying for him to go to Man
Pep
City.
Guardiola would despise.
I'm not
Theo
saying for him to go
Hernandez.
to Man
Honestly,
City
he'd
at
be
all.
like, please just pass.
Especially with how he changed his system.
Liverpool?
Yeah, Liverpool with how Robertson
Andy
is at the
Robertson,
moment, so on and so
like,
forth.
slight dip.
But look, this is from the player's perspective, and I just
What
think
you on about?
I just think when you look at how much money he's on compared to others in his position, what he's kind of been battling last season, he should be playing in, fighting for the league week in, week out, season on season, and going.
I mean, he only won the league 2 seasons.
Yeah,
And-
two
and
seasons
actually,
ago,
I think
and
that-
okay, they made it to the semi-finals in the
And
Champions
Napoli
League.
are now managed by Rudy Garcia, so they're not going to win the league. So you've got a pretty good shot next year.
Possibly,
I'd
but he
say
could.
Milan are in
but I
not a
think
bad
he
position
could.
to
I think
try
he
and win
could
the
be
league
playing for Real
next
Madrid.
year.
I really
Or
do.
PSG.
Or Bayern Munich, because Alphonso Davies wants to leave Bayern. Like, the guy is exceptional, but he's only on £71,000 a week.
There's no way they're selling him though. How much money would Alphonso?
But this is the whole
cost you?
point in forcing
I
a
see
move.
what
This
you-
is
I
the whole
see what
point
you
in
mean.
forcing a move, right? When he
Yeah,
can.
but you can't actually
if you
do
could-
it. This is the thing. We talk about forcing a move, but forcing a move does require like a confluence of circumstances. If you've just got a contract and the team wants to keep you, when we talk about forcing a move, it never works. You can go on strike or whatever, but they'll just park you in the reserves. Like, they're not going to just like take a bar.
Milan are
from,
not
like,
going
a
to
huge
park
player.
Theo Hernandez.
Are we
in the
just
I
reserve.
know, but they're also not going to sell him. They're just going to be like, nope.
We are.
You need to get an absolutely obscene offer for him. And
Yeah, they might do. Like,
I don't know.
theoretically,
if you
like,
have
we're
that money,
saying-
I would offer it for Alphonso Davies. He's better. in my
Oh,
opinion.
But what if he wants to
not
leave? Like,
sure.
if you're Bayern Munich and he's left, like, you want to get another
Yeah, but you
fullback.
just don't
in,
let
like,
him
you
leave.
could-
You could just say no.
Well, Alphonso Davies.
Yeah.
He's under long contract.
But then if he's not left, then why not go to Real Madrid then? If Real Madrid need a fullback. in
Because
left
I don't
back.
think Real Madrid. I think Real Madrid are still going to just like play Camavinga or do something
Real Madrid,
weird.
go back home.
Look,
Yeah.
the whole point of the video
I mean,
was
if
players that need a
Real
forced
Madrid might have an
transfer.
agreement. Who knows?
Look, the point of this video was players that force transfer. Half it's imaginary
He's literally
going
going to need to force it with like an AK-47.
Literally. Yeah.
That's the
Bring a
only way
tank.
he's getting out. Of
Bring a
AC
tank
Milan.
into the building. Like, this is the whole point in the video.
All right.
Half these players need a forced transfer. I don't know. Look, the guy's on 71k a week. Like, Chilwell is on 120k more than him. Right, like this is where I feel like he should be trying to kind of widen his horizons. Like he should be on more money. He should be battling for the Champions League final season on season, winning the title every other year. Like the guy
won the title last year.
Yeah, but he
got to a Champions League semi this year.
Of course.
I mean, I would want a pay rise.
But do you not think like the
way
they're running? I think he's top 2 for sure.
He is
great.
It's
either him or Davies. Realistically,
and AC Milan are the top 2 clubs in Europe. So
AC Milan are the top 2 clubs. Yeah, aren't the top 2 clubs in Europe. No,
Milan
for sure.
Arsenal.
And this is
City and Arsenal.
But this is what I look.
But even then, like you look at their. But I think there's a reasonable point there that City, Arsenal, Real Madrid are interested in a different kind of fullback.
Yeah.
To Theo Hernandez.
Yeah, and look, AC Milan, they've spent a lot of money. Maybe down the line, we've seen it happen with them before, and obviously they're City rivals where financial issues have come up several times. If they need to sell and get a lot of money, he could be one of the big boys for it as well.
Sure.
In terms of attacking fullbacks,
it's a rogue shout.
But PSG is set up, Bayern is set up, Real have got options, City wouldn't go for him, Arsenal wouldn't go for him, Chelsea have got too many people in that position. Liverpool have got Robertson and Tsimikas.
Let's go.
Who's left?
So there's basically an option you can discard.
But I don't see the whole point of this video was just finding players that needed to force a transfer.
Sure.
Not the we now need to go find them clubs. Otherwise, we wouldn't have picked half these players.
I agree, but like there's only so much you could talk about a player like forcing a transfer if they will never be able to force a transfer in a million years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree with Pat.
We're talking about United finding money out of Arsenal. We're coming up with imaginary Suarez left, right, centre.
Hojlund, I think, could force a move somewhere. Yeah, fair point.
Right, they got about to sign a keeper. They didn't even find a 50 mil somewhere.
Your scenario, I'd say, is like further removed. From
I get what you mean.
Like you're absolutely right. Like he should be paid like he's one of the best fullbacks in the world, and he isn't.
He should be forced a new contract then, maybe.
Yeah, that's the thing. He should go to Milan and say,
with the AK.
Where are you going to find another fullback who can do what I can do? Take the money that you would have spent on a new fullback and pay
it to me.
Yeah,
that's the way. That's the way to do it.
I've got Harvey Barnes. Like obviously a little bit of an exodus going out of Leicester. We heard Iheanacho was linked to. Who was Iheanacho linked to? It was someone really fun.
Palace?
No.
Yeah, Palace. I think
it was Palace.
Palace or maybe Villa. And I think it was Palace, and it was like that would actually be sick.
You love Iheanacho.
He'd be way.
You've loved Iheanacho for about 5 years.
But every time he gets on the pitch, he scores. Like I mean, I don't know what he's meant to do.
Well, he's so purple patch though. Like he scores
sick.
like 4 goals, and then he won't score again in 12 games.
That's not true. He doesn't get 12 games. He's just out of the team. Like, but yeah, okay, whatever. There were rumours he'd go for 8-0, which is incredible. Obviously, Söyüncü's off to Atleti. Maddison's gone to Spurs for I think an amazing fee.
40 mil, yeah.
Harvey Barnes should be the next guy. He should not be in the Championship, especially if Söyüncü's going to Atletico Madrid. Harvey Barnes is better at football than Söyüncü. He's 25. He's homegrown. He got 13 goals in the Prem last year and an assist.
Yeah.
13 goals.
And the year before, he got 13 assists.
Well, the year before, he had 16 goal involvements in the league. The year before that, he had 13. The year before that, he had 14. He's a very reliable attacker in a team which has yo-yoed all over the shop.
Mm-hmm.
His numbers weren't their best last season, but like they're still really, really solid. And actually, in his first season at Leicester, when they were still a pretty good side, he was like over 0.5 xG, an expected assist per 90. His shot numbers have always been really, really good. I think he was over 3 shots that year as well. And I've heard people talk about, Jack Harrison, what a bargain. Someone should get him out of Leeds. Harvey Barnes is better than Jack Harrison.
What level do you think he could play for?
If Spurs went and got like Harvey Barnes, I wouldn't think that was ridiculous. I think maybe like a Brentford would be a better level.
Yeah, for him to play week in, week out.
I think I think for Spurs he'd be like a squad player who's good.
And
who
they
would be a
Solomon,
good contributor.
So
he's better than Solomon for sure. Solomon was not very impressive last season. But like Brentford or someone, he'd just play all the time and be great. And that's the thing. I think you're always going to get about 4 shots out of him between his shots and key passes. Yeah, Newcastle would be interested, and he's currently linked with Newcastle. Yeah. Apparently, Leicester want 30 to 35, which I think you can negotiate down.
Defo. If Madder's gone for 40, I know he had a year left on his deal.
Madison's a significantly better player, but if you can get him for sub 30, I think you've done a great deal. Because again, he is homegrown. Dribble success really plummeted last year, but before that has been good. He's a really good outlet receiver. loads of progressive carries. I mean, in some way, he's kind of like a poor man's like Martinelli. Like lots of shots, lots of progressive carries, good at getting into the area. Much more of a kind of goal scorer type winger than a creative type winger. But yeah, I don't know. I think when Spurs are looking at Manuel Solomon, I think it's ridiculous that they didn't look seriously at Harvey Barnes. Yeah, Brentford, Newcastle, any of these teams.
Yeah,
but
Aston
there's
Villa.
absolutely no way he should be in the Championship when he's getting over 10 goals and assists in the Prem.
I think Aston Villa would be a good option for him as well, given that it's quite a lot they played Jacob Ramsey out or I left last season.
He's better than Bailey.
Okay, I'm going to finish off with the most obvious one, just because I wanted to win as one of the options, is obviously Harry Kane. I think just the biggest needs to force, just the biggest needs to force a move, maybe in football history at this stage. Like, he has 1 year left on his contract as well, and he's obviously he has tried to force a move in the past, hasn't he? He dipped his toe in the forced waters, but he never quite
jumped in.
If you're going to do it a bit, you have to do it a lot. You can't just like, I didn't train today, but I'll come in tomorrow. You have to actually not train for a week and be willing to be hated.
Yeah, like he really was tempted, wasn't he? When that City move was happening, he was very close to being like, I'm just never going to turn up again.
He should have thought that.
He's in such a weird place as well, because I feel like most Spurs fans are kind of like, I'd be happy to sell him. He deserves.
I don't know, man. The Spurs fans I speak to are like, don't sell him at any cost. Like, which is just, to me, the most bananas thing ever. Like,
it's just stupid.
If 100 million offer comes in from a club abroad, it's just the most open goal to be like, okay, look, Harry, you've done your service here. We're going to let you go to Bayern Munich, win your league titles. We're going to recoup that money, because even with you in the side, we're not going to win the Premier League or the Champions League to warrant £100 million worth of saving there. And then the worst of it all is he's not going to sign a new deal, and they're going to lose him for free to United or Chelsea, or like a Premier League club.
Definitely
like I think it's. Yeah, I personally think it's bizarre they aren't just saying, okay, 100 million.
What level of forcing move does he do? Like, because he is never, like, Harry Kane is never going to not turn up.
Release public statements.
Yeah, public statement to the fans.
Public statement saying,
like,
I've done my service. Thank you so much. Tottenham's an awesome club, and
I would rather leave the club with like a huge fee than just like leave for free.
Exactly, and I don't want to join. I would never play for another Premier League club. So
he needs to do something, or he needs to accept he's going to sit there for another year. But Spurs need to game it out. They need to say. So he goes in a year. They're so convinced to sign a new deal. I don't think even that is a good outcome for Spurs. I think the only good outcome is selling him now for a big fee. Because the other possibility is
him signing a new deal is an amazing.
No, it's not. Because they'd have to pay him so much more, and you're going to get another couple of years, and then you're done. And then you get nothing for him.
I think Spurs would take him for 3 years, to be honest.
They'd be lucky if they get another 3 years at this level, though. Because he's had years that weren't this level.
Come on,
he
can play consistently into his late 30s.
What about his year when he was aged 27, where like he didn't play half the season?
Well, yeah, but he's proven over the last 2 years that his injury record has drastically improved.
Yeah, but my point is, you could get those. You can have those. Those years tend to get more common as you get older, and those could easily happen in the next 2 or 3 years. So if you're saying, well, we're going to get 2 good years out of him, then one of those years is not a good year, then suddenly you've spent $350K a week, and you've lost 80 million on the contract. For nothing. Because the other question is, where do Spurs end up with Kane? As you've said,
I think
they're not going to win the league with Kane. They're not going to win the Champions League with Kane. They might not even get in the Champions League with Kane. Everything Spurs do should be about how do we win the league in 5 years.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and from Kane's point of view, just force it's got to be done. I think he's just the biggest open goal for this one. So that was our 9 suggestions, wasn't it?
Yeah.
My 3, just to recap, were Kane.
He could even do it privately. He could even do it privately. He could even say to Levy, I'm telling you right now, I will never sign a new deal. If you don't let me go to Bayern, I'm going to sign a pre-agreement with someone in January, and you're going to spend the second half of this Premier League season knowing I'm going to Man United. Do you want that? He could do that. He doesn't need to necessarily go on strike, but he could just say that to Levy.
Yeah, he could. Will he though? Is another question.
It's all right. Don't worry. It was a worthy interruption. So my 3, as a reminder: Tierney, Kessie, Kane. Zach, yours were
Felix, Jordan Pickford, and Theo Hernandez.
And yours were
Hojlund, Mendy, and Barnes.
So those are the 9 options for you guys at home. You can only pick 3 of them. Put them in the comments below. It's from the player's perspective. Yeah, comments below, and the reason you've picked those 3. We're going to dive into some quick fire questions now, because we haven't done these in maybe over a year. The first one was sent in by Vasi Detalinara. I know you're not the biggest fan of this question, Pat, but who's winning the transfer window so far? So
Arsenal?
far, as we sit today,
I think Arsenal.
I think Arsenal.
Rice,
Rice,
Timber,
Havertz.
It's a lot of money
really strong.
again, but I think it's.
And also, winning the
across
transfer
Europe,
window
the
doesn't necessarily
strongest
mean you win. You have a better season. Sometimes. I mean, last season we sat and said Spurs had probably won the transfer window.
Yeah, but we also said Arsenal had a really good
we
window,
did. Yeah,
you
we
know.
did. I think Chelsea done really well selling.
I think outgoings,
I
you
do
probably
think
are the
Chelsea
best. I think
have done a really
outgoings,
good job.
Chelsea won so far. Although Man City also doing some great outgoing business, I think, with their youngsters, like James Trafford going for 19, 20 million. The lad went to
One's going to Southampton
today for 10 million. Like they just do offload academy graduates well. So,
PSG have signed a ton of people that I'm not that excited.
but they've
about.
also had signed a ton of people and then appointed the coach. Like, is that the right way round? What happens if Enrique doesn't want Skriniar?
What have Villa done? Villa got in Pau Torres,
Yuri Tielemans.
Yuri Tielemans.
Have they got wing? They were linked to Chukwueze.
I think
but
it's
now,
not too bad.
They're having a pretty good window.
But
as
for
well,
me, it's
I'd say.
Arsenal. For me, yeah, I think it is Arsenal.
AC Milan are doing some interesting stuff.
It's just because you want to get Pulisic gone.
Loftus-Cheek.
Next one.
Interesting.
What formation do you see Chelsea playing under Poch from Delvano?
4-2-3-1.
Not three at the back.
I think
He's
he'll
done
want
both,
to go.
hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean he could do three at the back. I think three at the back gets you more of your centre backs in. I guess if you want to make sure that Fofana and Colwill and Badiashile all play, it could be a formation that I think, based on obviously his previous history, it could be 4-2-3-1 to get the best out of the midfield and everything.
But you've got no
But
midfielders.
you just don't know yet. I mean, but once if Caicedo joins, then it's like it feels like it's going to be Caicedo, Enzo in that too.
Who's in the 10?
and then-
Nkunku?
Yeah, I'd think Nkunku in the 10 with like a Broja or Jackson up top, with then a Sterling, Mudryk, Madueke wingers.
It's not bad,
combination.
you know. It's not bad.
He could also do three at the back. Obviously, Reece James and Chilwell. They've obviously played
Midfield's
in
still light for
in the
me. That's
back.
still so light. Like if
It is light.
Gallagher's there
Caicedo was to
too.
get injured or Enzo was to get injured, you've literally not got another midfielder to play in there.
Yeah, I wouldn't shock me if Chelsea go on to sign obviously Caicedo and another midfielder.
Yeah.
But then also
And you
there's
got
this
baby
talks-
boy, your little baby boy
Santos
who was
that
playing,
everyone-
and the guy who was playing left back last season is a midfielder.
Lewis Hall.
Yeah, and you got
Lewis Hall.
Chukwuemeka.
We've got
And
Chukwuemeka.
who I do think is pretty exciting.
And everyone keeps talking about the Santos kid that we've brought in. Like he's fantastic.
What are you doing with Casadei?
Casadei, I think there's talks of him going on another loan move.
Okay, right.
And for like maybe a low Premier League side, high Championship side. Played for Reading obviously last season, had a decent campaign. So yeah, it'll be interesting. It could be the Santos kid. It could be the Santos kid that everyone keeps talking about. So yeah, it'll be interesting nonetheless. So
Okay, next one was sent in by CJ. Do you think you'll tune into the Saudi League at any point next season?
no.
No, same for me. No, I just can't get behind. I can't imagine the competitiveness of every team being owned by the same bloke.
Well, I just
How is that? What's going on there? Like, how am I going to enjoy that?
But there's also so much football you can watch, right? Like you're
Yeah.
watching the Premier League, nearly every single Premier League game at times. You then try to tune in the Champions League. You then also, on top of that, trying to maybe tune into a Serie A or Ligue 1 or La Liga game every now and again.
Yeah,
You got a life to live.
I don't even watch. I barely watched half of Arsenal's games last season. Like,
You have a kid
You are a
to-
dad,
I
mate.
probably
You are a
watched
dad.
more than
You are
that.
a
But
dad.
like,
Next question. Do you think Onana is the right goalkeeper choice for Manchester United? From Jay.
why are you looking at us?
I do. Yeah, I think he probably is. I think
He's not the wrong one, I think.
No,
I think he's phenomenal.
I think
I
he
think
could have
he's
a
the
couple that
best.
would have been
He's the
fine.
best option on the market, I think, for Manchester United. He fits how Ten Hag clearly wants to play. He's worked with Ten Hag in the past.
Yeah.
An excellent shot stopper, but most importantly, he is a complete gear change in how they play out from the back. He's going to allow the defensive line to play way higher up the pitch. Very, very comfortable with the ball at his feet, and I personally don't feel like 45 mil is.
I think
A crazy. I don't think it's not a crazy fee where you're looking at it and going, United are getting done over massively here.
he could have. I'm not going to, because obviously Alisson had an exceptional career after joining Manchester United Liverpool, and what it did for Liverpool as well for getting that kind of goalkeeper. I think there could be similarities for what Onana could do for you guys.
I
Like
don't
a
think he's as
complete
good as
change
Alisson.
up.
I don't think he's as good as Alisson.
I don't know. He might be.
But he's also
might
like
be.
he's still quite in a perfect age for a goalkeeper,
Yeah.
man. Like you can get 5, 6, 7 years out of him for him playing a goal for you, and for the rumored of like 50 million.
Yeah,
That's
I think 45
fantastic.
plus
He's
5.
worked with the coach before, I mean, there's a lot to like about
There's a
it.
lot. I agree. There's a lot of positives. I
He
think if you'd have
completely
said,
mate, he changes the way you play football.
yeah, he does. He does.
And he's
Just
actually the same age as
incredible.
Raya, right?
Yeah,
Raya's
27, I think, isn't
They're
it?
the same
Yeah.
age, and it's pretty much a similar fee. Like if you think maybe
Yeah.
5 million extra for Onana, I think it probably
think
works
it's great.
better.
Very well.
This one is specifically for you, Pato, from AFC Greeny. He says, "Is 105 million on Declan Rice a huge overpayment?"
It is an overpay. I don't know if it's huge. I mean, like, probably I would say, like, what's he worth? Probably 70, something like that. So, I mean, like, yeah, I guess it's like 1.5 times. But at the same time, homegrown, 24, a known quantity. I mean, the one thing I would say is that, like, there's quite a lot that he can't do that, say, Partey did for Arsenal last season. Like, he's not going to dribble away from pressure in a small zone. What he can do is power past people. He does that sort of dribbling,
Bulldoze.
that kind of ball carrying, as opposed to, like, evading pressure. But he never really drops a performance that's like less than a 6, which is
Yeah,
kind
I
of what
agree.
you need from midfielder. Yes, it is an overpay. I mean, I don't know why. Again, this is the thing where I saw, for example, some Chelsea fans yesterday talking about what a great job that the club had done selling, and they were reporting all the fees they got, including add-ons. So it was well, that's 65, that's 60. Like going down the list, and I do find it interesting how Arsenal fees are always reported as like including add-ons, whereas other clubs it's always reported.
Pre-add-ons.
Certain other clubs,
Yeah.
it's always reported pre-add-ons. In this case, it's only 5 mil add-ons, so who cares? But yeah, it is. But it is a statement, and Arsenal can do it. So they don't give a shit.
I think it's a worthy overpayment, though. I think it's absolutely fine to overpay for certain players, and I think Rice is one of those players. He's a good age, Premier League proven, that every time he's played in a major game, be it for England or even for West Ham, has consistently stepped up in calibre. I think he will definitely be a better player with better players around him, for one. And this is a player who is clearly going to be part of the leadership group almost immediately. I imagine day one he replaces Granit Xhaka in the leadership group. Like, that's a huge statement. And it's also a big statement in terms of, we're Arsenal, we've gone out there and we've competed with City and we've got a player. City wanted this player at 100 mil, we've paid 105 and got him. Yes, it's an overpayment, but sometimes you've got to overpay in order to just put a line in the sand and say we're coming for a league title.
There aren't many players you can buy and guarantee
He's a guarantee.
they're going to work out. And I do think Declan Rice is a guarantee.
He's always fit.
and
He's never
I know, but that's what I'm saying. When you say
Yeah.
he's guaranteed, like
He plays 38 games every single season, doesn't it? I think he's...
it's not great.
Yeah,
I don't like to see that.
For me, he's a guarantee. I think 105 million pounds is maybe like 10 million overpay. Who cares at that stage?
He can play for
And
Arsenal for 10 years.
midfielders left, right, and centre are costing you 100 million
Yeah,
now.
you're
Honestly,
gonna pay 120 for Caicedo.
Chelsea could easily spend over 100 for him. Bellingham's going to go for, possibly for over 100 with all the add-ons. I mean,
Enzo went for 120.
Any midfielder who is under the age of 25 and you want and has had great experience is going to cost you nearly 100 million.
Which
nowadays.
is why Mount's such a
Which
good deal.
I was
guys.
literally about to say. It's like
Which
that.
is
It's
what
such
makes
a good-
Mount
Like
such-
Madison's
but
such a good
unless-
deal. I know
unless-
he's older, but
unless
still.
contractual situations.
Yeah.
I think.
Sure.
Next one is from Don Jack, who says, thoughts on Ancelotti going to the Brazilian national team in 2024?
If he's happy, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Honestly, I love that man. He's just he's like the granddad of football. I absolutely adore him.
What do you think that means for Madrid? Do you think they just wait for Xabi Alonso?
I literally don't know what they do.
Well,
The boys covered this a little bit on Continental Club this week, so if you haven't already seen Continental Club, please do go and check that out. But what do we think?
it's tough because I guess
Spalletti back
because
from
with the way this season could go, maybe a manager is sacked and suddenly he is like Julian Nagelsmann still hasn't got a club. Maybe he ends up at Real Madrid, or they sign a pre-contractual agreement and he has like a year off, or say things go really wrong at Liverpool, and like maybe they think about moving on from the club, or say
Let's
they
get
honestly-
relegated.
or say-
They honestly might just bring back Zidane.
I think
Yeah, maybe they-
I
They'll
think
be like,
that-
we've completed the rebuild that we were going to do when you
Yeah.
kind of wanted to leave. So
I was going to say
And,
the same
this,
thing.
and
take
also,
over.
like, especially if they got Mbappe at that point as well.
I think-
Zidane's one of the few people in the world who could say to Mbappe, shut up, sit down.
Yeah, I actually think that is by far the most likely
Zidane's a
option.
great
I know
shout.
that as I said, the Continental Club boys were saying that Xabi Alonso could be an option.
Yeah.
Dougie Critchley was kind of pushing him as a potential candidate. But I think he's come back before. He'll come back again. Zinedine Zidane will take over, and the squad will be perfectly set up for him. Bucket load of French players in there. Mbappe will be arriving on a free transfer.
Zidane will look at that squad and be like, "Oh my god, this is amazing."
I saw
because before we were just like, "Oh, he's done a really good job," like Sergio Reguilon really brought him along, and he was kind of, it was really early days of Valverde, and he was just kind of cobbling stuff together. I think he did, but Vinny was
early
not Vinny. So he was really kind of cobbling it together. And now you're like, oh, do you want just the best crop of young midfielders the world's ever seen?
Imagine him working with Bellingham, working with Bellingham, Tchouameni, all of them.
I can see it happening there. The final question is a bit of a prediction. Who will be the best player on planet Earth next season?
Haaland.
Probably.
In terms of putting the ball in the back of the net, probably Haaland, KDB,
Mbappe
does really well. Mbappe.
I think Vinicius.
No, I think KDB.
KDB's going to drop off this season a bit.
He's been saying himself that his body can't really hold up to a full season.
His hamstring was shot to bits last week.
He's been saying that for a while now.
Bellingham at Real Madrid.
I think Vinicius more likely at Real Madrid.
Vinicius, Saka, Haaland, Mbappe. Is there another candidate?
Madueke.
Maybe somebody like Pedri. One of the Barcelona kids is due another bumper season, I think.
Yeah. All right. There we go for another episode of Sunday Vibes. Obviously, this was one for you. Sorry, I didn't mean to get you off there. There we go. Let us know in the comments below about your 3 selections. And also, if you want to see more quickfire questions, then leave some below and let us know about it. If you haven't already watched Continental Club, where Dougie, Henry and Mikey were talking about some of the best wonder kids your club should be signing, then please do go and watch that. Thanks very much to Clubhouse 5 for hosting us. You watching. See you later.